And we are live.
And we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Reformers on Thursday, where we recap the events of the hellscape dystopia we are living on. Today, we have, let's see, I didn't even check to say hi. Hi, everybody. I didn't even say hi. Adam and Susan and Chris Q and Michelle. And that's anybody else below there?
I think that's
and
all.
I'm Casey. And we're going to talk about a few things tonight, but we're going to narrow our focus because we felt like it was more important to really hone in on some of the details here and give you some calls to action so that we can make more of an impact. So we're going to start with Epstein because somehow, and I don't know how, but there have been more developments since we met last Thursday. Like, this is what happens every week. We meet and then we're like, wait a minute, is it possible that this many things happened in 1 week? And it is, and it always is. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to get to the election concerns, especially with the FBI raid in Fulton County, Tulsi Gabbard. Why the hell was she there? We're going to talk about that. And then also we're going to talk about what's happening with ICE and how that's connected. So, but we're going to start off with Epstein. So stay with us until the end, or if you want to come back, because we're going to talk about all of that today.
And if you haven't been with us before, what we do is we do show some media as we talk. So we show videos, we highlight some news stories. So the first thing we're going to do is show a video. And I think one thing that's really important to talk about is how the victims have really been harmed by the way this was released. You know, I'm going to play this video and you'll see what I mean.
Reportedly, some of their images as well. Today, attorneys for victims demand fresh anguish for nearly 100 victims of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein after the Justice Department accidentally released their names and reportedly some of their images as well. Today, attorneys for victims demanding that all 3 million pages made public last week be taken down, telling a judge every hour matters. The harm is ongoing and irreversible. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche has acknowledged mistakes were made.
Every time we hear from a victim or their lawyer that they believe that their name was not properly redacted, we immediately rectify that.
But previously anonymous victims said,
I just want to mention Todd Blanche. No one should pay him any attention because he was Donald Trump's personal attorney. So he is out to protect Donald Trump.
Hey, that's not enough. I have never come forward, wrote one woman, identified as Jane Doe. This is devastating to my life. Please, I'm begging you to delete my name. Tonight, fellow survivors like Danny Binsky speaking out.
For survivors who have never, ever come forward, this is heartbreaking.
And the New York Times reporting that DOJ published dozens of nude images of young women or possibly teenagers before taking them down when they were alerted. The latest DOJ release, which officials say is the last one, included hundreds of mentions of President Trump, most of them in newspaper articles. Trump and Epstein were friends in the 1990s. When Epstein was arrested in 2019, Trump said they'd had a falling out and hadn't spoken in 15 years.
They released 3 million pages. It's like this is all they're supposed to be doing. And frankly, the DOJ, I think, should just say, we have other things to do.
So I think that's enough, but you get the idea. So what do y'all think of that? Because I think it's mortifying, the fact that to me, I almost feel like this was done this way intentionally because these aren't just names you're overlooked. And I want to say too, when they released this 3 million documents or 3.5 million documents, they made a point to say we redacted all of the women's names because we didn't want to take a chance. How do you miss 40 nude photographs?
I believe it was witness intimidation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a way of silencing them before they even came out.
Because we have to remember too, there's a lot of victims we know about the women who were victims, as children, the ones that have spoken out, but there's so many women that have not, or they were girls, have not said anything. So this is pretty much saying, don't come out or you will be re-victimized. Like, who is going to come out now and speak on this?
They just re-victimized them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think something that folks are missing here that I'm not seeing too many people talk about. Our government literally just posted CSAM for everyone to see. That should disturb everyone. Like, how do you miss that? You don't. It feels so intentional, Chris. I agree with you 100%.
It does. It really does.
And they claimed that they weren't going to do that, and that was exactly what they were going to withhold. They said that they wouldn't show that. They said that they were withholding death, physical injury, and abuse, and they made a big deal about that. And so we thought, hey, all of these redactions are in the name of the victims. And then we see an email, which, by the way, at the end of the live, a lot of us are going to post threads on our socials. So if you want to follow us there, we're going to post some of the documents that don't read really well on screen here. So for instance, this email that I'm talking about, where it's asking for a recommendation from Jeffrey Epstein as to where he would send his victims, like what gynecologist would he send his victims to. He's like, hey, the person's like, hey, who would you send your victim? Like, what was the name of the gynecologist you send your victims to? And Epstein's like, what, New York? That's not a victim. Like, right? Like that's probably somebody in power that they're protecting. And that's what we're seeing over and over and over are they willingly release names and identities and identifying factors about victims, right? Like there was no real effort to protect victims in this, but there is still an effort to protect the people in power who are benefiting from it. And that's the consistent theme here, is protecting people in power, not the children, not the victims. That wasn't the focus of this. They were complying because they were asked to comply, but they didn't fully comply. And they didn't comply in a way that was accessible for people. They complied in a chaotic way by dumping all of these files in an effort to obscure a lot of the identities of people, in an effort to confuse people. And it's to me, like Michelle said, re-victimizing the people that were
also, you know, I want to mention too, like a lot of these rich and powerful men, they use the excuse, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know who he was. Like, there's emails in the Epstein files between Elon Musk and Epstein arranging his, a visit to his private island, what do they call it? Rape Island or something like that. This was after, like this email was dated after Epstein's arrest and after his plea deal. Like he had already served time. So everyone knew who he was at that point.
There were a number of prominent figures. I think Lutnick may also have been one of them that emailed after Epstein was convicted. So yeah, they knew, and frankly, they just didn't care because they were too rich and powerful to bother. But wait, Casey, did you say that we're going to be doing threads? I didn't know there was homework.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I said a thread. I meant like a thread as in a post with multiple things after the live. So like whether you're on Blue Sky or Twitter or Threads or wherever you live on the internet, if you have documents that didn't really play well visually here, but you want to post somewhere else, people can go like, this is my post live thread that lives on Blue Sky or Twitter or wherever you can find us on the internet, basically.
Well, there goes my joke. Thanks.
Sorry. Oh man, was that supposed to be a joke? The autism is heavy here. Okay, like the literal is just there all the time.
I think it's important to point out the international nature of this too. You have Keir Starmer could very well lose being Prime Minister of the UK because of this. Because of him lying about his knowledge of the ambassador to the United States. You have the Prime Minister of Poland coming out and saying that he is very concerned that not only about the victims and everything, but with the ties to Russian intelligence. And obviously that is a huge thing for them, given their geographical location and Putin's proclivities of late.
This was an international sex trafficking ring. I mean, no doubt. If you read through the Epstein documents, there's no doubt this was an international sex trafficking ring. And I remember posting with the first drop, which, what was that, 3% of the files or 1% of the files, there was a young girl who was living in the UK that was sexually abused, raped there, and then was flown to Florida for the same process, the same situation.
And the fact that you have Donald Tusk, the Prime Minister of Poland, giving a news conference where he describes it as, he literally used the words, it is a honeypot, that you have them acknowledging the fact that this was explicitly to gain intelligence and to use it for blackmail.
I think that though, Chris Q, you brought out a very underrated aspect of this. There was at least one email that I saw between Epstein and the Russians indicating that he was going to speak to Lavrov, I think it was. So how much of this, you remember back to the investigation that the Republicans tried to significantly discredit back in 2016 of the British ex-intelligence officer, whose name I forget. We talked about compromise that the Russians had on Trump. Well, maybe through Epstein, they do. Who knows?
And the more and more comes out, the more, I think, just laughable it is that the guards were asleep and the cameras were off.
Oh,
yeah. I wonder if we'll ever really get definitive proof. There's a lot of conspiracies about it, but it just doesn't seem.
If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that people are talking about him being alive in 2026, right? Like because somebody posted, I can't remember where, and if I find it, I will put it in my thread. Someone said, what happened? The demand doesn't go away. So who stepped in here after he's gone? This is a network of people who felt entitled to prey on children.
What most people don't know is that this was Ghislaine Maxwell and her father, with his kind of media empire in the UK, that she kind of took over the family business there after he passed away. Again, under suspicious circumstances, where he fell off his boat in 1991 and drowned. And this is what he was doing, was theft, crimes, blackmail, So this goes back a long way, and has tendrils that go everywhere.
So someone put in the comments, there we go. I want to know if Bill Gates gives all his island bros free software licenses for miners for mining our data. I mean, I don't know. I never used to think much about Bill Gates being a bad, awful person, until this. And now we're finding there's so many rich and powerful men who are, I don't know what you want to say, but disgusting. This is a claim, which I find it believable, and you'll hear why. Epstein claimed Bill Gates caught STD from sex with a Russian girl, and he slipped Melinda antibiotics in latest files released by DOJ. I want to queue up for you guys, if I can find it, an interview from the vault with Melinda Gates.
I made that clear to him. I also met Jeffrey Epstein exactly one time.
Did you?
Yes, because I wanted to see who this man was. And I regretted it from the second I stepped in the door.
This was from 2022. Oh, it says on there, 2022.
He was abhorrent. He was evil personified. I had nightmares about it afterwards. So, my heart breaks for these young women, because that's how I felt. And here I'm an older woman. My God, I feel terrible for those young women. It's awful.
You felt that the moment you walked in. I didn't realize
that. He was awful.
That. Yeah. And you shared that with Bill, and he still continued to spend time with him?
Any of the questions remaining about what Bill's relationship there was, those are for Bill to answer.
Okay.
But I made it very clear how I felt about him.
She just answered the question.
Yes. She did. She 100% did. And this is why she got extra money from the divorce. Yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot of stories like that. I mean, could you imagine finding out your husband was hanging out with Epstein? And I don't have photos for this, but if you look through the photos from Epstein Island, you could not spend time there and not know that there were young girls as part of the equation, like children. Some of the artwork in Epstein's homes, they were depicting little girls in bikinis with no like breasts or anything. It looked like a child. First of all, what artist would paint something like that? And then he had this in his home. There were photos of his victims. It's almost like he wanted to
trophy room.
Yeah. It was really sadistic shit. Like, in around his properties. So if you spent time at his properties, I mean, if I was over at your house and I saw, pictures of young girls, paintings, photographs, there's one in Epstein's office on Epstein Island with Bannon, where there is a girl passed out, like partially on the sofa. Her legs were not on the sofa. And this is framed on his desk. And Bannon is sitting across from Epstein. Like, how you definitely knew.
I don't.
Well, there was. Go ahead, Casey.
Just really briefly, I have the hardest time that you're trying to tell me that these are some of the most powerful, most accomplished people in the world, like some of the most like supposedly intelligent people on the planet, and none of them knew. Like, you're running multinational corporations and you don't know that this is happening. Like the most obvious context clues in the history of context clues. And you're just like, I don't know, I'm just a little baby. I don't know what's going on. I'm tired of this. Like, you are culpable at this point. Like, you in the bare minimum knew something shady was going on. It involved women. It involved young girls. That's enough for me. Send them all to jail. As you were, Susan, what did you have to say?
I say they all knew. I say that they were a group of older men that had a little secret handshake and had channels of wealth and it blows my mind that Epstein had a brother in this, which I didn't know about till today. I don't know if you guys have heard. I believe his name is Mark Epstein.
He was. I'm sorry, Susan. I thought you were.
Is
finished.
he your
Please.
brother? No, I'm asking Adam.
He's surfaced on some interviews as kind of the shepherd of Epstein's estate, and has actually called for releasing all the material. I don't know, other than that, what his involvement is in this.
Sure.
I'm not a person that really particularly believes in guilt by association, because I've had too many clients that have had bad parents, siblings, whatever. But it's kind of hard to think that he wasn't aware of this. But I also did want to say, Casey, haven't we long been debunked? Hasn't the idea that the people that run multinational companies are intelligent been debunked? I mean, we've seen Elon Musk, before he started participating in Twitter, was regarded as a genius. Elon Musk is a genius.
Well, they regard themselves that way, which is my point.
They
right?
certainly do.
You can't look at me and claim to be this, right? Like, I agree with you. And I, by the way, also feel like intelligence, there's various forms of it, right? Like, so
Absolutely.
Just because you run a corporation doesn't mean you're intelligent, but they think that that's what it means. And so you can't look at me in the face and say you're that smart. You're capable of running this company, and also you missed all of these very obvious clues that it was like a child sex trafficking ring. No, you can't do that to me.
No. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I just don't think that.
But that's what I mean, right? Like, it's like, you're right. That's a great point,
Yeah.
Adam, because it's true.
Yeah, these guys. I mean, we know that they're accomplished. I will say that, and some of them are. I mean, I will say that Bill Gates is incredibly intelligent. that doesn't mean that he's not a complete sleazebag. Which
No, and
apparently
you know,
he
I saw
is.
a post. I saw a post today that was really upsetting, and it was essentially listing some of the people that were mentioned over and over and over that we now understand have affiliation, like Deepak Chopra, Stephen Hawking, and like all these people, and saying, you know, these are people who in their respective spaces advocated oftentimes for marginalized groups or things like mental health or whatever. And so here are these people who are doing good in the world, but also behind the scenes doing this terrible evil. And the juxtaposition of that is upsetting. And the fact that people don't care about women. And that's like very evident in the way that they live their lives. And it was, they were saying that that was a heartbreaking revelation to realize that you can't even trust the people who look like they're doing good and are maybe even doing good. And I would argue that that's been the problem with the American system of government from day one, right? Because you look back to the founders who were very accomplished men doing very awesome things, but also enslaving people and forcing children to have sex with them and have their own children, and then also enslave those children. And then we have to somehow build monuments to them because they did these great things, but they're also doing terrible things. And here we are in 2026 living it all over again. And how many days has this been in the news where they've dropped like actual evidence out there that like would normally call someone to a court, right? To have to account for it, to have to defend themselves and say, yes, I did, or no, I didn't. And has anybody been brought up on any charges? Like, is anybody being called to account for it?
And that's what's really, I think, one of the most, well, first of all, to your point about, you know, enslaved, that's what this feels like. Like when you are reading these stories, when you're reading these court reports and filing documents, it felt like these young girls were property of these men and they were not regarded as human. And it's so disturbing. I mean, this is not something we as regular folk on social are used to reading. And it can be very, it's very disturbing and very, I don't know if depressing is the right word, but just very like, you need to take a break sometimes. I think a lot of us have posted about this. And when you're doing the research for your post, it's just like, wow. Like I posted on something recently where, how can I say this without being, you know, he liked fresh meat. This was literally in writing, and no N-words. Do not bring any N-words to the island. So it's just this, and this is like, I don't think they would find that. I was shocked. I think this is regular talk. This is just how they regard these girls.
It's that entitlement. It really is. They believe, they know societally it's not acceptable. Like they know that society doesn't think that it's okay, which is why they've hidden it away. But privately, they believe these things and they feel entitled to these things. And that subjugation is a part of their network. Like they all subscribe to that belief and they all feel entitled to that. And that's why they've been protecting one another, because none of them feel like this is wrong. And that's
in their secret.
When you're famous, you can do that.
Yeah. Their little secret.
When you're a star,
they
let you do it.
My
I think that's
is
the most. Go ahead, Susan.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say to that point of it was a network of men and some women who kept this whole thing hidden, right? And now we're finding out that it's no longer hidden and they're still being protected. I'm really struggling with the fact that there was such a push, you know, to share the files, you know, hold people accountable. And we actually have someone from this administration coming out and saying, no, we're probably not going to do that. We're only going to release this many files. We're not going to release the rest of it. Was it Bassett? I don't know what his name is. Bassett.
I mean, and it's not a few files, it's millions that they're not releasing.
Yeah, it's and to think of this is what we're seeing. What are we not seeing? Right? It's just it's hard to wrap your head around it, right? I need to see I want to see prosecution. I want to see these people being held accountable
live
on TV. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, Michelle, to your point, I think it's really, that's one of the disturbing things too, is like no one is being held accountable for that. Like, yeah, okay, Epstein died, but like there's so many men that should be in jail that are living a fantastic life right now.
Why is Acosta not on in a hearing right now on C-SPAN? Like, I need to see this. I need questioning. I need to know why we're allowing this to happen right now.
There was a way for the DOJ to make an argument about this that was evil, but could have been somewhat practical in that you could have said, it's been so many years, these are allegations, and you have to understand that there's a difference between the allegation and even if it's true and the burden of proof in a criminal trial. And we have unfortunately made the determination that we couldn't cross that bar because of XYZ, because of the time, because of the lack of evidence, because of some witnesses not wanting to testify. But they didn't even bother to do that. They didn't even bother to give a fake reasoning. They just flat out said, we're done. And you had Trump's statement of the DOJ should just say we got better things to do. And it's that level of callousness that shows that there was never going to be any accountability, ever.
And this is the same DOJ that decided that they were going to investigate the family of Renee Good after they murdered her, even though they had agents that had actually committed that act, and were not going to really go do an investigation into the murder of Alex Preddy until they were kind of shamed into it. And even though Chris said a while back that we shouldn't pay any attention to Todd Blanche, he told us all, hey, it's not a crime to party with Epstein. And well,
no, I don't mean don't pay any attention.
I mean,
differ. Like, don't believe him. Do not believe him.
No. I didn't mean that pejoratively against you, Chris. Of course, I think you know that.
No, that was the interview I was talking about.
Yeah.
Actually, can we play a little bit of this? Because I think that's a really good point Michelle brought up.
The financier, calling him a continued danger. This stunning, never-before-seen prosecution memo and draft indictment written nearly 2 decades ago. Prosecutors in Florida detailing the disturbing evidence they gathered against the financier, calling him a continued danger to the community based upon his continued enticement of underage girls. But that 60-count indictment never filed. Instead, Epstein landing the now infamous deal allowing him to plead guilty to lesser state prostitution charges, for which he served just 13 months in a Florida jail. Upon his release, Epstein free to enjoy a jet-setting lifestyle and access to the rich and famous until his 2019.
How many girls could have been saved from this torture if he had actually served the time he should have served?
Arrest. These messages from 2013 show Epstein connecting New York Giants co-owner Steve Tisch with various women. In one exchange, Tisch asked about a woman only identified as M, writing, "Curious to know about M, pro or civilian." In another, Epstein informed Tisch about a microbiology student in Florida who he said was interested in meeting, advising Tisch to, quote, "make it clear that you will organize her ticket." In a statement, Tisch acknowledging a, quote, "brief association where we exchanged emails about adult women," but saying, "I did not take him up on any of his invitations and never went to his island. As we all know now, he was a terrible person and someone I deeply regret associating with." Known Epstein associates like the former Prince Andrew, who was stripped of his royal titles last year over his relationship with Epstein, back in the spotlight as well, with the release of these photos showing him crouched over a young woman, the date and context of the interaction unclear. Representatives for Andrew have not responded to a request for comment. Also in the documents, numerous unverified tips and unsubstantiated allegations against powerful figures in politics, finance, and entertainment, including President Trump, claims the Department of Justice says are unfounded and false. Some of Epstein's victims now furious, saying many of their names were left unredacted and exposed in this latest release. Epstein survivor Charlene Rochard tonight telling me she is, quote, completely disappointed with the Justice Department.
I have absolutely no faith in this justice system at this point. The DOJ is not taking care in survivors at all. They're not considering us.
Now, the bipartisan lawmakers who pushed for the release of the Epstein files are raising questions about the 3 million pages of records the Department of Justice did not release. They're now.
So that was basically to I don't know who made that point, but that was, there's so much still there. And one thing about Alex Acosta, he was the U.S. attorney in Florida. He gave Epstein that deal, and then later, what was he? He was appointed as labor secretary, which oversees human trafficking laws. Human trafficking, this attorney that gave that sweetheart deal to Epstein was in charge of human trafficking laws in the first Trump administration. That's crazy.
That's crazy. Well, my representative had an idea of wouldn't it be nice if Prince Andrew could come here before Congress and answer some questions, kind of like the Clintons have agreed to. I mean, the guy's got nothing to lose. Britain.
Well, what does he have to gain by that, though?
He's got a lot to lose.
I don't think that, honestly, he's already in literally the doghouse at, he's not even a prince anymore.
I don't know. I'm just.
I mean, I don't see what he has to gain from that. I think he's in hiding. I don't know.
I think that if any rich and powerful person was likely to get arrested and charged, he would be the number one, the prime suspect. So if he came over here, he would subject himself to the jurisdiction of the U.S. Justice system, and he could easily be the scapegoat for the entire Epstein fiasco for Trump. So
that makes.
I mean, at least they would try to do that. I would imagine.
That makes sense.
Can you imagine if he came here? The nice shiny object? Trump would be trashing him. He would be the one that would get all the talk, and it would take the pressure off of Trump. And we should mention. I don't remember how many times he's in the files, but Trump is in the files more than Epstein. Like his name comes up in these files more than Epstein, which is crazy. One of the things we wanted to show, which here we go, is how if you're watching right now and you want to search the Epstein files, it's really quick. I want to show you guys a demo on what to do.
Yeah, ECB ST6 claims that they're not in the files. Maybe we should search and find out.
Well, I don't know. People say the search function doesn't work that well. It works good enough, in my opinion. I mean, maybe not good enough, but it works plenty. I found lots of shit in there that I did not want to find. So basically, to me, the simplest way, if you're just a regular user, and the point of this is to encourage you to look for yourselves. When you see a claim, you can look for yourself. You can post about it, because our media, they're just kind of talking around the edges here. They're not really telling us how bad this is. Sometimes it's for obvious reasons. They can't say certain things on prime time, I guess, but this is pretty easy to find out. So just Google Epstein Files database. Then you click departmentofjustice.gov, and it's going to take you to a verification page. You just have to say yes, that you are 18 years or older. And then you're going to scroll down. So you have to scroll down. Do not make the mistake. There's a little search bar. Oh, it doesn't come up on this page. You want to see search full Epstein library. Then you can type in. Now, I typed in Jay-Z because at one point there was a lot of chatter on here. Like, he's in the files, and apparently he lost 1 million followers on Instagram, and Beyonce too. So I looked. So I'm using him as an example.
Let me say real quick here.
Go ahead.
Just real quick. the patience is part of the key here, right? Because sometimes, like, to the people who are saying it's not easy or intuitive or whatever, sometimes you may have to play around with the spelling or like how things look. But just think of millennials and Gen X LimeWire days, right? Like, you could find the file. It's probably there somewhere. You just have to like search a couple different terms. So don't give up the first time, right? Like, just, you can find your song there somewhere. It's probably there. So just as Chris is explaining that, keep that in mind.
Yeah. So it populates and you see these are links, the blue are links. And then it has a little like summary underneath, I guess you could call it. A lot of this is repetitive because a lot of the things repeat throughout the files. So you'll see, so a lot of this with Jay-Z, there's not really, I found that there was no reals there. There was one file that a girl woke up in the presence of Jay-Z and someone else. And the way it was written, I was like, I don't know about that. Most of these are grouping him with other entertainers at a party scene, but not necessarily at Epstein Island or at any of his properties. It was just in these documents. So that's just an example. So you see it populating, and you can click on any one of these, and you usually, like, I click on a few to see like what's happening here. And this shows you, like, once you click on it, that's the document you get.
And this is part of the disorganization people were talking about. Sorry.
What's that?
Sorry. This is the disorganization that people were talking about earlier, you know, like that they were mentioning. This, like when you were saying there's some duplicates and things like that. That's part of it. They knew they were doing that, right? This is, like I said, I told Chris earlier, either they intentionally did this or they intentionally hired people that were so inept because they could only find inept Trump supporters. There wasn't anybody competent who cared about Trump to come work here in the Justice Department. So they intentionally staffed incompetent people. I don't care. Either way, this was intentionally done to obscure things. And so now people are having to play detectives and sort of piece things together. And that's why it's taking so long. It's also why there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff that can't necessarily be proven right away as being AI or manufactured or whatever, because you have to kind of follow this trail here. And it's hard to say, yeah, it's definitely not in there, because sometimes you have to search for a while, right? It's just not easy. It's not accessible in that way. It's there. A lot of the claims are there. You just have to look for them, like Chris is showing you. But at the same time, it's not in an easy, accessible way that's so organized, that's intuitive, that's quick to get, I guess. It's not searchable in a way that's easy to refute some of the rumors, and the Republicans are relying on that, right? Because then they can say, oh, a lot of this is manufactured, or like they just want anything that's going to deflect from the people they've been protecting.
It's a 3 million piece jigsaw puzzle, because it's not it's not like it's organized in, here are all the documents that would go to this allegation or this charge or this case. It's just completely haphazard.
Yeah, they needed.
If you have duplicates here, how many of these 3.5 million files are really 3.5 million files or pages if they're redundant?
Right.
So just to finish the demo, so you always have to go back to the age verification. Like, if once you leave, go back, you have to verify your age again. And then again, you type in the search. I typed in Trump. And this is just to show you there's tons of Trump pages here.
One of the things, you guys, that really stood out to me in a really shocking and disturbing way was how many people in academia showed up in these files, in this drop. And, you know, I don't know how closely people follow, but there's actually gentlemen that are still, I'm not going to name names because I don't want to get in trouble, but these gentlemen are still professors. These gentlemen are still working with the public. These gentlemen have access to patients, to people. So I hope, as a mom, you know, with kids in college, check and make sure your kids' professors aren't on that list, because there are a few that really were. It was shocking to me anyway. So I don't know if it is for everyone, but it was to me.
It's absolutely shocking, and it's disturbing. I mean, some things are like what I just showed you here. I intentionally did not want to have anything disturbing just for the purpose of that demo, but it's not hard. It's not hard to find. I didn't find it hard to find disturbing, jarring things. Yeah.
I miss the days when a scandal, like, you could have like had a 3-way and that would have ruined your career forever, right? Like, there was a time, a whisper that you'd had some kind of scandal, and I mean that could have been like topless photos or something, right? We're talking about
Cheating.
some of the like this, right? Cheating, yeah. The younger kids don't realize that us oldies out there, we remember a time when even just like I said, a whisper of scandal. This is so far beyond that. And the idea that people's names are mentioned in this hundreds and thousands of times, and they're just going on about their life like nothing happened, I will never reconcile that. Like, I don't think that there's going to be a day where I can make sense of that in my brain, because just living through the tabloid times, like the tabloids that used to be at the checkout counters. I don't know if they're still there now. I shop online, but you
don't have to go to the tabloid times. It's like, how long did we have to look at the blue dress on TV?
That's right.
Like, for weeks.
Come on,
God,
y'all.
Susan. Yes.
Stop with the pearl clutching. I mean, it's not like it's not like they were, I don't know, wearing a tan suit. Come on. I mean, wow.
I'll bring this up absolutely every single time, right versus left. Al Franken took one questionable, funny photo, and that ended his career.
Yes. Thank you.
And then we see this. We are not the same.
And to that, by the way, we would have, if he had been just investigating, like even just in an investigation, right? Like, just having an investigation was really what was called for, and that it was just like full resignation, right? Like, it was like, don't pass go, like, don't stop. And we aren't, I mean, I am suggesting we just throw them in jail right away. That I am, but like most people aren't, right? And the system is saying you should go through due process, even though the Republicans don't remember what that is. We do, and we're willing to do that. But it's just the shock of the fact that where there's smoke, there's some fire. Like, this isn't just like a little tiny, campfire. This is a full-on brush fire, and they're just acting like they can't smell the smoke. And I am just not okay with it. The people protecting them.
I put this up just to highlight the fact that when was this? This was July 2025. And these were influencers that were invited to the White House. This was after Pam Bondi said, "Oh, I have the files on my desk," which,
Who's the guy in the cowboy hat?
Oh, I don't remember who this is. It is, I maybe could tell you.
Which one is DC Drano?
DC Drano is...
I think that's the guy on the far left.
Okay.
No, that's Rogan O'Hanley, I believe.
Oh.
Okay. No, you're right. You're right. He's DC. That's the same thing as DC.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so they were given binders, and they were so excited. Like, this is what I have a hard time reconciling. Like, we all just talked about how horrible this experience was for these girls, and how it's a lifetime of trauma, and how
us reading it is traumatic. Like, we are having to take breaks because it's hard to read it now.
And here are people who made huge claims on their podcasts, on TikTok and everything. Oh, the Epstein files are real. We're going to take them down. It was all in the vein of taking down a Democratic cabal. Okay. And they looked at these binders and realized this is shit that's already public. These weren't even the files. This was nothing new. And then they got pissed. Because they wanted the salacious goods for their followers, for their viewers. None of us are having fun with this shit. but the stories need to be told. They need to be told properly. They need to protect the girls who are, and I also want to make this point. A lot of people get upset when creators use the word women, and I've used the word women myself. I want to explain the way I use it is in the current state of these survivors. They are women now, but when I talk about what they experienced and when they experienced, they are girls. I'm not saying everybody does it that way. What's that? They were children, yes. But I'm just saying, like, right now, the women who have come out were girls. They are now women. So I don't want people to think that when I say women, I'm talking about the people that were abused when they were little girls. I know they were girls. So this is just, a moment that they were excited about, and it's very telling, in my opinion.
Has anyone checked their posts recently? I'm really curious what they're thinking now.
No, I have not, because I do not follow these clowns.
Yeah, I don't either, but I am curious as to where they stand today.
There's one more video that actually Melina shared with us. I will go ahead and this
sound for Jeffrey. This one stuck. After they took the first.
Let me start over here.
Tomorrow is the halfway ultrasound for Jeffrey. This one stuck. After they took the first baby who survived and the early miscarriage, I think it was called, I no longer feel like a person, but a vessel. Will they take this one too? Who has the first one? Where did Jelaine go? She's never around. I can't let myself get attached. I'm not old or mature enough or even in the place to have a baby that I would be responsible for. I'm not even able to focus on anything other than hiding this again. I had to go to eating disorder treatment.
So this is a creator talking about, she's reading a document from the Epstein files. She gives the file number, which is great. I always, when I post about it, I actually include a link to the file that I'm citing, just so that you could go see it yourself. Even though I'm putting a screenshot, you can go see it yourself, because I'm not usually, usually I'm highlighting or discussing one or 2 points, but a lot of times these are like several pages and there's a lot in there. So I shared the link. I do want to say, and I haven't tried it lately, I did try and include a link, the link I kind of showed everyone how to find with my thread, and I was fine on everything except X would not let me post that. They would not let me post the Epstein file database. No reason for that. I don't know. Yeah. So, but this is not unusual. This story is not. There's stories in there. There's court documents in there that are making accusations against Trump getting young girls pregnant and then disposing of the baby. It's bad.
Even though she says that so dispassionately, it is just harrowing. I had not seen that one before, and I kind of wish I hadn't. But as we've said often during the Trump years, don't look away.
Mm-hmm.
It's important. It's important to see what is going on. I'm sorry, Michelle. I've interrupted you a couple of times.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, actually.
And don't do it again. Oh, I mean,
sorry.
I love you.
To your point, though, when you were just saying that, like, it brought me back to, remember when the Mueller files came out and we had folks who did a reading, like they all got together and folks were reading the Mueller files. I feel like we need a moment like that. We need something like that. We need somebody to speak these words out loud, because there's so many things going around and so many different creators and so many, and they're all doing a great job, but it's so hard to, you're just scrolling through and you're seeing just all these different things. And it would be nice, if nice is probably not the correct word, but I think it would be helpful,
important,
if we had somebody, if we had somebody putting this in some kind of order and speaking those words, because folks see this file or whatever and some people will look at it, but people need to hear it. These are human beings who were destroyed by these men, by these folks, photos, I feel the photos that have come out can be dangerous and very harmful to the victims. I feel like the victims' voices need to be heard.
Does anybody know if those photos were removed, like all of them? Do we know?
I haven't heard that. I know there were folks that had called the DOJ and tried to contact the DOJ and asked them to remove them. So I do know that there were a couple that were removed, but I don't know if all of them have been removed.
Okay, I haven't heard either. That's what I was asking. Okay, so our next topic, election security, if you want to call it that. So we know Tulsi Gabbard. First of all, I think it was yesterday was the first time I had heard that she did a so we know she went to Georgia. We're gonna have a little short video on that. But yesterday was the first day I heard that she did this pretty much the same thing in Puerto Rico. So how many other, elections have they seized documents, voter rolls and all that in Puerto Rico? That's
news. When did do you know when that happened?
Yeah, I heard that today.
I think it was it wasn't that recently. It was my understanding. Let me play this video real quick.
I want to say that was in February or March. It was several months ago.
At the full
February or March.
I think.
Yeah, it wasn't like right now.
This is a picture of Gabbard as agents served a search warrant at the Fulton County election office looking for 2020 ballots. Gabbard is the director of national intelligence. Officials say election security is part of her role. Meantime, the chairman of Fulton County says he has nothing to hide.
Fulton County is now, has been, and always will be committed to upholding the law, no matter what anyone else does.
President Trump has long insisted the 2020 election was stolen, even though courts, his own former attorney general, and several audits have found that there was no widespread fraud.
So a lot of people are like, why was she there? Why? Which is a good question. Like, she shouldn't be there. In normal times, she should have nothing to do with this. And there's a couple other clips that mention this, and it's not talked about enough, in my opinion. If you link this to international, voter fraud, it becomes a federal intervention as opposed to just a state issue. And I think that is what they are trying to do. They keep, like, Trump is on, he's mentioned today, I think, or was it yesterday, he mentioned China. I mean, it really has been Russia. I think even Italy was brought up. They are grasping at straws to make it seem like another country is interfering in our election so they can take over the election process.
Yep. Initially, he claimed that Hugo Chavez had used satellites to flip votes, not realizing that he had died years earlier. So, I mean, we know where they're going with this.
This is a list of what they, seized, or it was in the warrant actually for Georgia. So, I mean, that's crazy. None of this can be ever trusted again. Like, you cannot trust any of this data or information from Georgia again, because the custody chain has been broken and they took everything. And I don't remember her title, but there was an interview with a woman. God, I wish I could remember her title. But she said that they don't even have a complete record of what was taken, like exactly what was taken. And she wanted to take photos of the boxes that they were taking, and they wouldn't allow her to take photos to have a record.
I mean, from my understanding of it, 98 some odd % of the voting locations in this country use paper ballots, including Fulton County. So everything should be there on paper. It's been counted. It was recounted. I think it was
certified twice,
maybe 4 times. Yeah,
it was recounted 3 times, and certified twice. Yeah, so there's no there. Plus, how many times did they go to court to talk about election fraud, and they lost every time?
20, 30, 40, 50, 62 times.
Wow.
And lost every single time. They won once at the trial level, I think, in Philadelphia, which affected, like 1,500 votes, 1,300 votes or something like that. And I believe that was overturned. So I believe every single case they lost, including on the merits, they'll tell you, oh, procedural grounds. Oh, they wouldn't let us litigate the case. No. They had nothing on the merits or otherwise to show that any significant voter fraud occurred.
And there are whole issues of logic that people either don't understand or willfully don't understand. That we're saying that, okay, Trump won, but does that mean that somehow the ballots were manipulated so that only the presidential slot was changed and everything else was fine? So are you arguing that Republicans that won down ballot didn't actually win because the ballot was altered? What are you arguing? And then,
well, Chris, Trump doesn't care about anyone but himself. So
truly.
But that's a point a lot of us have made. Is like, okay, a lot of Republicans won that year.
But I think this goes to a more fundamental understanding of how elections work, period. And so it would behoove people that are on the conspiracy ledge, that are actively seeking real information, not far-right MAGA people, to volunteer at your polling place, to see the inside of how elections actually work. And you'll see that in all practical terms, there is no way to rig an election in the way that they're saying is done, like people impersonating people to vote, people going to multiple polling places, people being paid to vote. It is not practical given the manner by which we vote in this country.
And the fact that our elections are run by states is probably the best thing we have going as far as election security, because if it were centralized, we would be done. It would be over.
Thank you, federalism.
Hello, I would like to talk about this. Because as Chris knows, I have ranted at him several times. This is specifically to MAGA. I'm talking to you right now, okay? You cannot bitch for fucking years about how much state authority and power matters, and then have the federal government showing up to state and county municipalities to steal ballots in the cover of night. That's authoritarianism. That's not separation of powers, and that's not giving the federal government less power. That's giving them more power, more. And y'all spent the better part of a decade being insufferable about that. And now here's your government stealing away all that authority. And where are you at? It's crickets. I'm so annoyed that we had to listen to all of that, and you're not even bothering to help us prevent this authoritarian takeover.
I'm sorry. Were you under the impression that MAGA actually believed this stuff? Or like the rest of us, we're cynical enough to realize, oh, it only matters when it affects them in a negative way. Casey, I love you. But my goodness.
They're about to feel that, because it's going to affect them in a negative way, because these people don't give a fuck about you. They care about the rich and the powerful, and that's not you. If you're listening to this live, it's not you. To be really honest about that. So,
well, you want one thing that I think?
I want all the things you think, Susan. Please. Let's go.
But my brain is very cynical, but I have it connected the ICE raids, the ICE things, with what's coming up with election time.
Oh, you're nailing it, Susan.
Oh, boy. Put that Bannon image back up, Chris.
That they will put an end to the election, because right now Donald Trump is like a caged animal. He is that horse that you've got in the stall that is throwing a fit and you don't want to be around. I swear it's all connected. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So,
absolutely.
You know what? Let's watch this little clip here to your point, Susan.
ICE surround the polls come November. We're not going to sit here and allow you to steal the country again. And you can whine and cry and throw your toys out of the pram all you want, but we will never again allow an election to be stolen. But let's put you on notice again. ICE is going to be around the polls in the 2026 midterm elections.
Okay, and then one more here. Let's listen to this one.
Some areas in our country that are extremely corrupt. They have very corrupt elections. Take a look at Detroit. Take a look at Philadelphia. Take a look at Atlanta.
All blue states, all of them. I mean, cities, blue cities. He doesn't mention Mississippi, that during an off-year election in Jackson, Mississippi, which is predominantly black, where they changed the polling place 2 hours before and people were showing up and had to drive, 20 miles to a new polling place because they changed it. That's tampering with an election.
In elections. Now,
Chris,
if we need to
anything...
put in federal controls as opposed to state controls, remember this, they're really an agent. They're really accumulating the votes for who wins an election. If they can't do it honestly and it can't be done properly and timely, then something else has to happen.
So if you're stupid, you hear this and you think, man, he's talking real tough. I totally believe that shit. It's insane. It's really
this is one of, and I'm going to tell you, if I'm gone tomorrow, it's because the blood pressure has taken me out, and this is what the final thing that did it. So they've been telling you this entire time what they're going to do, right? They have never been secret. They published a whole fucking book about it. It's called Project 2025. Maybe you've read it. We're like halfway through it. And so now they've been talking about this for a while, right? They've been trying to undercut election integrity for so long so that, as Chris said before and others said in the panel, you can't trust election results. Well, now they've gone into Fulton County and taken away ballots so that they can claim election in 2020 was stolen. And now the states can't run the elections because they don't know what they're doing, but we can run the elections. We know what we're doing, right? And so they're making the case for that step by step by step. And so people on the internet are trying desperately to make sure that people like you and me aren't afraid because, the law exists, right? I'm here to tell you that's true. That's true. The Constitution prevents the federal government. Like, it's not their job, right? In the same way that they're not supposed to be fucking with education, right? Like, that's supposed to be primarily the state's job. There's a lot of things that are enumerated and not that belong to the states in terms of responsibilities. This administration stands to honor that. I think that they're telling you that, and they won't answer when you ask them very specifically about it, and they start talking about nationalizing elections. It's in his True Social rants, right? It's when he is, I don't know, he only has so many good is a stretch. He only has so many cognitively, how are we describing him when he's more lucid? I don't know what we're calling that. But like he goes off the rails. Right. So he goes off the rails, and that's what he does privately. But in public, they kind of catch him from saying too much. But he does give it away. So this isn't a shock here that what they're trying to do ultimately is take the power of elections because then they can control it. But here's the thing. They know that they might lose these midterms. And so Susan said before, they're desperate. Trump's like a caged animal. He ran to be president so he would stay out of jail so that he could pay for his lawyers. Like, he, of all people, is one that has a lot at risk here. So all of these people are trying to grab whatever power they can. ICE is a part of that, right? They're trying to take whatever they can. They're trying to show that they have all this power to their followers. But really, it's just that they're hedging their bets here because either they're going to lose at midterms and we win, but they claim that it's not valid, right? And then they try to have that fight. Or they take over the elections and they assure that they don't lose. And then, more of this.
So to one point on that, Democrats have been consistently overperforming in elections. We need to make sure that happens like all the way through 2026 elections, because we have to basically make the margin too big to argue with, basically, to take to court or whatever. I mean, they can take anything.
Rig, if you will.
Chris, there's a comment on there, and I understand their point, that we need to try to push the narrative that Trump has no power over the elections in the state.
Well, that's a fact. I mean, that's not a narrative. That's a
People will
literal
not-
fact.
Right.
The president has never had any authority over
Right.
elections.
Correct.
They just don't.
And we
That's-
know
And
that.
for good reason.
We know that, and
okay.
that's accurate. But I want to, before we, just to answer
Yeah,
Susan
go
on that, and also Greg, that's really true, and we should be saying that. But we should also be saying that in tangent with. But we recognize this administration does not respect this Constitution. So what we're going to have to do is empower people locally to make sure that we protect our elections, right? And so we're all going to have to take some ownership in that. We're going to have to volunteer to be poll workers. We're going to have to create networks where we figure out how we make it safe for our neighbors to vote, and we make sure that they know that we're making it safe for them to vote, right? So this is going to be a lot of coalition building on our parts that we're going to have to do. And we will talk more about that at the end in the call to action. And we'll talk more about that in the ensuing weeks. But Susan's correct. And so is Greg. And we should definitely be doing that. And we should be combining it so that we empower people to know that we can stop this, right?
Now, bear with me. And let's go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
I would also, thanks, Chris. I would also suggest that if you are in a safe place, in a safe district, that you vote early and you go someplace where they could use your help. I'm in New York. I live in Westchester County, north of New York City. In 2020, I went down to South Carolina, and the vein thought that Harrison might have a chance to unseat Lindsey Graham. That didn't come close. And then I went to Erie County, Pennsylvania, good 6+ hour drive there to help in 2024. So you go where you are needed if you can.
I like
And I think that's
point,
awesome, Adam. That's a really great point. And that should be a part of what we do in our networking, is connecting with these local districts to figure out like where the communities are that need that kind of protecting, where, like, if ICE is planning to go there, where they're planning to go, so that we can roadmap that out in advance. I think that's such a really good point, Adam.
So I just want our viewers to see the rest of this, because there's a couple of other important points here.
What does he consider fair?
I mean, the president has not considered any election that he has been a part of to be fair, nor in 2018. In one instance, he called for the Arizona Senate race to have a redo. In 2022, of course, he had suggested that there was a rigging of elections when his series of candidates lost statewide races. And let's be clear, just this week, he suggested that he won the state of Minnesota 3 times. He lost Minnesota all 3 times. Either federal agents, ICE agents, or even the military should be sent into polling locations this November. But again, that would be a violation of federal law unless it were to be determined that the president would be protecting the United States against enemies.
Did you clock that? In our country. Did you clock that he said unless it was determined that the president was protecting the United States against, he should have said foreign enemies? This is where he gets power over elections if they can make this, stick. So, and I've heard this very briefly on a couple of experts have said it, but it's not nearly getting enough attention. This is the reason why our director of national intelligence is doing this. This is why Trump keeps putting it out there that we have to protect the United States. This is why he keeps putting out there, oh, it's China, it's, Italy, for fuck's sake, whatever. These are important details, and this is not to be taken lightly, in my opinion. I think it's being repeated too much.
And they're telling you, and what they've done historically is, and Adam can weigh in on this because he's our resident expert, but they've used the law, right? They've used legal means sometimes legal means to broaden their power. And this is what people have done, like, for the history of our country, because the Congress can't make all the laws, right? Supreme Court, like, the judicial branch helps fill in some of those gaps. And so what do? It's like they take legal means, they hire lawyers, they exploit the law in this immoral and unethical way to gain more power and usurp more power. This is what they've done from the beginning.
What was
Very much so.
What was the first thing that the president called Renee Good? Who was
a terrorist, right?
A terrorist.
Right. A domestic terrorist.
That's what he's going to call That's what we are going to be.
That's right, Susan.
He already directed the FBI to arrest some alleged person because a person that allegedly was a member of Antifa today, because they allegedly made threats against federal agents and was speaking out. I didn't see the full news of that story, but it was somebody, I believe, in Minnesota.
Well, I'm not pearl clutching either, Adam.
One thing that I've seen about trying to rig the election is the idea that there aren't enough ICE agents, like Bannon is saying, to station at every single polling place. And I think that's just completely misunderstanding what's going to happen. You don't need every polling place. You need strategic polling. And you need just enough intimidation. And we have a blueprint for this. It is the Jim Crow South. It is exactly what we did to Black people in this country, where they technically had the right to vote, but not really. And so that's going to be the case of anybody that might think that they might have some kind of confrontation with any kind of law enforcement. We have seen that clearly your whiteness does not protect you. So there is no person in this country that would not potentially be disappeared at an election site by ICE at this election. So all you have to do is hit strategic voting precincts, and that would be enough.
And this is what they've done from the beginning, is using that law. Go ahead, Adam, because I'm sure you're going to say something to that effect that I was going to say.
Well, I was going to go to the SAVE Act. If you haven't paid attention to this, folks, the so-called SAVE Act is something that the Republicans are pushing to really try to get voter ID as part of our national elections. And the idea is a simple enough one, mom and apple pie kind of thought process, right? Oh, you should have photo ID necessary in order to vote. That would take away all doubt, all questions, so forth and so on. Except that, as usual, the devil is in the details. And maybe the devil went down to Georgia when Tulsi Gabbard went there, but that's a different story. But
it's a poll.
You have to have. Yeah, it is. You're exactly right, Chris.
It's a poll tax.
And you have to have either a birth certificate, which I know it may be surprising to a lot of people, but there are a ton of people that don't have birth certificates. Susan, there you go. You have to have, or a passport, which of course costs money, in order to establish your identity. And this could disenfranchise every person that's changed their name, every married woman that has taken their husband's name. If you do not have documentation with your original name or in the proper form, you could be disenfranchised for simply getting married. Now, I don't think that would happen, but it certainly could. And frankly, if you get a fire-breathing GOP operative running that particular polling site, I wouldn't bet against it.
I think they know that probably won't pass, I think is what we're seeing right now. And I think they're hedging their bets and they're doing all the things, and everybody's sort of envisioned what this was going to look like is the end of occupied Germany. But there was a whole process that came before that, right? And so we need to get out of the mindset that it's going to look like a bunch of soldiers in tanks rolling up, and kind of get back in and walk back a few steps and realize they're going to be doing it the way that they've done it before in history, which is exactly what Chris Q explained, and we've talked about. And I think it's really hard for people. This is also complicated by the fact that it's hard for people to understand or believe, I should say, that their government would go to that lengths. And I have a theory about this because, they'll talk all day long about Congress and how corrupt Congress is or how inefficient that they are. People have a lot of opinions about that, right? But then the second when you start talking about, oh, and then this president wants to do this authoritarian power grab, people are like, well, wait. Like, I don't know, like someone would stop him. Like, obviously, like, I don't think it would go that far, right? Everybody's always trying to say that wouldn't happen. And I don't know if it's, they just really have been taught that our government is like this, like upstanding, noble, like that's what I was taught. And it wasn't until I went to graduate school where I was like, oh no, oh dear, oh boy, right? And we were just waiting for the one person that was going to come in and fuck it all up, right? Like, and be the one that pushed all of these like rules and boundaries and limits, and like took advantage of the laws that don't exist, right? Like to make their own. And I think there's a lot of people at home that are still, even now, finding it hard to believe that this could happen by this way, right? They're still thinking he's going to use military force, and, oh, he can't do that because there's too many people in this country and we're too expansive. And, there's no way. It's not a quick grab, right? It's a slow, like methodical, like very, as Chris said, a strategic in terms of points of interest and polls. And I think we have to work on that. Like there's a fine line between fear mongering, right? Because you don't want to do that, but you also need to recognize and prepare for the inevitability of this type of authoritarian fascism and what it looks like. And I think people just really still are having trouble with that.
And in terms of what they're willing to do, I think people have completely forgotten that we were a hair's breadth away from losing democracy on January 6th.
Yep.
That
Wake up. They're killing people in the streets. They're beating people down. It's happening.
Right.
I mean, for God's sakes.
It's true, though.
I wish I could maintain Chris Q's equanimity, though. I mean, he's like the essence of calm. I mean, that's I don't know,
I know.
If you've taken just too much medication, Chris, or that's how you normally
I
are.
have those pharmaceuticals. I need them, though, obviously.
I do have
Yeah, do you share, Chris?
No, I need them all for myself. Thank you.
Can we pump it through my air system, please?
Chris, I have to ask, are you a teacher?
I am a retired teacher, yes.
Okay, because you have that calmness where you're like, I can share information without being reactive.
I taught middle school for 23 years, so you cannot scare me. There is nothing you can do that would intimidate me. Nothing.
Thank you for your service. That's all I have to say to all the teachers out there. Thank you.
My parents were both lifetime teachers, and boy, my dad did not have anywhere near that amount of calm.
Hello. That's me.
There you go.
I taught in high school. In fairness, I taught the big 17 and 18-year-old. They were almost adults, so they needed to be prepared for all of this. I wasn't reactive back then. They probably would, if they found me now, they would be shocked. They didn't even know I was a Democrat. Like, I was really very neutral back then, because back then it was mostly Obama and Bush, and it was a totally different era. I don't know how teachers are doing it now. I gotta say, if you're a teacher watching this, props to you. I think about y'all all the time. God bless you, because truly, I don't know how I would do it. I really think about it all the time.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're going to move on to ICE, but we have been talking, if you've caught us before, we've talked about a lot of the abuse, which is really important. The victims, we've been highlighting those stories, the children that are being detained. Tonight, since we've been talking about election security, that is a violation of our election rights, what they're trying to do, right? Our voting rights. I think we should talk about ICE and what they're planning on doing. Like Steve Bannon is basically saying, we're going to have problems voting because ICE is going to be there to intimidate you. I want to share this video with y'all.
To record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Why are you taking my information down?
Because we have a nice little database.
Oh, good.
And now you're considered a domestic terrorist.
Did you clock that? So this is why a lot of ICE are using their cell phones. They have a database. They're trying to capture your images to feed into this database. So we are living in a surveillance state. And I think this is, and I've said this a bunch of times in my posts and on lives, these are Trump's secret police. And I think we need to start thinking of them like that. Like they want to, we are seeing so many abuses, like physical abuses, because they want us to see that. They want us to be afraid. And now they're building, like they're getting our data. You can also link to what Elon Musk was doing with Doge. They have our, you know, our social security numbers, our financial data, all that kind of stuff. Continue.
So is there, in fact, a database? This administration has explicitly said they're basically creating one. Tom Homan went on Fox News this month and said so. Although Homeland Security has denied there is a database for, quote, domestic terrorists out there. But what is undeniable right now is that Trump's massive funding increase created unprecedented surveillance capabilities for ICE. And here's just a piece of how all of this works. So let's say you hear about ICE activity in your area and you want to go out and protest, which, by the way, is your constitutional right. If you drive there, automatic license plate readers can photograph your car and run it through a database of more than 20 billion scans. In seconds, they know where you live, where you work, everywhere your car has been in the last 30 days. Like it appears they did with observer and U.S. citizen Judith Levy in Minnesota. Agents took photos of her license plates. Then, according to NPR News, a masked agent later walked up to her passenger window and said, "Hello, Judith. How are you today?" ICE, the same agency that allows its agents to wear masks, has access to new apps like Mobile Fortify.
This is terrifying. I don't know if y'all caught that part, but he knew her name from just the photograph and probably her license plate. This is where we're at right now.
Which allow agents to immediately take your biometric scan of your face. They can even scan your fingerprints with just a picture. They don't need to even physically touch you. And then
I've researched that. I don't know if that's 100% true with the fingerprints. Like, I don't think you can get a really solid accurate fingerprint with a photo.
Let's say you want to upload your protest video to social media while you're out there. ICE has plans to hire nearly 30 contractors for round-the-clock, 24/7 social media monitoring. Of course, it's not like there's any shortage of content, posters, mugshots, and videos made by ICE and DHS going out there on social media. And then there's companies like Meta, which just began halting Facebook, Instagram, and Threads users from sharing a database that claimed to attempt to contain thousands of names and photos of ICE agents, saying it violates their privacy rules. Surveillance, unmasking, it all seems to be a one-way street right now.
What do y'all think about that?
I'm incredibly
moving to Canada.
in the Democrats' position, given the budget, that their starting point was a list of 10 reasonable demands, when their starting point should have been ICE gets defunded right this second, and then we can negotiate from there. But
100%.
Where they started leaves no middle ground. It is everything we've been saying, that we have a problem with the Democrats for absolutely everything else. They start from a point of contrition, that they leave themselves nowhere to negotiate. And so we are going to hit a government shutdown that is going to turn public opinion against the Democrats, because it's going to be, well, they folded before, they're just going to fold again. And so now they're shutting the government down for what? And people are going to, it's very smart of John Thune to be against splitting the ICE budget from the rest of DHS, because that means that airplane rides are going to be affected, because airport security and everything is going to be affected. That is going to hit normal people, and they are being incredibly strategic about it. And the Democratic leadership in Congress is being naive at best.
Thank you, Chris. I couldn't have said it better myself. It's true.
And we say it every week, and people, great job. I want to stress this really hard, because a lot of people get very protective and precious about the Democratic leadership. And I understand the reason, because obviously they're under assault as well from this fascist takeover. I get it. But we need to remember that as voters, we have a lot of power. And if we empower them, then they can in turn represent us the way that we want to be represented. And there are a few people that are pretty stubborn right now, right? And Schumer is one of those people. And I'll let Chris talk about this, but I want to say to this point, it's not bad to provide feedback that as a voter, this is not what you want. Like, you don't want them to start from this place of contrition. Like, you want them to ask for the maximum. I want you to get everything. This is what I want. Like, go tell them that. I don't want any of this. Right. And I think if you focus on what you as a voter want to protect you and your family, and it's not a personal attack on somebody necessarily, you can say that they're not doing the job you want them to do. That's not the same thing as saying that they look ugly, right? That's not the same thing. So they're big grown adults. You can be critical of them in terms of them not representing your interests. That's okay. And now you will know why that you want to feel that way in a minute, because Chris is going to tell you about what Schumer has done today. Oh my God.
I mean, I don't know if you all saw this. The only good thing I can say about this is, like, Democrats in the Senate are upset with Schumer and they want him to go. That is nice to hear. However, it's done in private. They're doing this stuff they're saying this stuff behind the scenes. The reformers, one of the original things we got together and decided, like, Schumer is not meeting the moment. In fact, he's horrible. He is horrible for the Senate. He's horrible for everything Democrats hold dear. And
he lives in an old world of politics, is what I was saying, right? Like, it's an old, back in the days where they would smoke in their jackets, like in a room having like a whiskey after they all fought on the floor of the Senate. They'd go back and be friends. We're not in that bipartisan era of politics now. We are actively fighting fascism, and we at home feel the effect, but he doesn't.
And it's really, I gotta say, I'm pissed because you keep hearing these things behind the scenes. Like, they're upset with Schumer. They won't, support him in the future. Where are you now? Somebody needs to step up. One of these senators needs to be brave and step up.
I feel like they're testing the waters. You don't think that they're testing the water? They're trying to see how much public support they're going to have.
I
agree.
Clear that public support. Who supports Schumer right now? Who? And when you're talking the public. And then
the allies that are also allies of Republicans. That's who supports Schumer right now, right? The people who are benefiting from this fascist government that are allies of Republicans that are also his allies. They share allies at this point. But I feel like most people and most Democrats don't. I mean, the fact that he was talking today about, like, well, maybe there are some instances where ICE can wear masks. Like that. Why? That is so unnecessary. Don't do that. That's bad.
So just real quick, I want to make this quick point. I feel sorry for Hakeem Jeffries because he has to deal with Schumer. Like, Schumer is supposed to be his partner. Horrible situation. We are screwed. Like, until Schumer, even if we win 2026, even if we take over the Senate, honestly, that'll be worse if Schumer is still the leader.
Yes.
They need someone to step up, because honestly, at some point, Schumer is basically helping Republicans. He really is. And so I put that up there just kind of as a reminder that Hakeem Jeffries has to deal with this shit too. To your point, though, about just take off the masks, these little agreements that they could be possibly negotiating behind the scenes, do not, like, why are you believing Republicans? Why on earth would you believe something they would say?
What have they done in the last year?
We have a law here in California that was passed. You are not allowed to be ICE and masked. You're supposed to have identification. It doesn't matter. The law doesn't matter because the law enforcement are our police in Los Angeles. No, I've not heard any enforcement of this. And so I think this is kind of a microscope of what we can expect nationally if Democrats fold and agree to some form of concessions. Like the one I keep hearing about is taking off the mask, which of course they should not wear masks. That's low-hanging fruit in my opinion. But who's going to enforce it? You've seen what the Trump administration's been doing. They do it anyway. You saw what just happened in Minneapolis. Tom Homan came in there talking some bullshit about, okay, we're withdrawing ICE and we're going to they're not making changes. They're not going to do it. They're going to stick with Trump's mission. That is it.
They're-
So any
they're taking
Democrat
power
who is
from the
elected
state
and
government.
believing this shit,
Yeah.
go away. Just go away. Stay silent.
Remember that time when the Senate said that they were gonna go ahead and vote for a reconciliation bill because they were gonna talk about saving our health
The
care
ACA?
in a few
Yes.
weeks? Like,
The Democrats that
come
got
on,
hoodwinked.
guys.
And we all
Tim
knew that was
Kaine,
like
I'm talking
bullshit.
to you, Tim Kaine. Oh,
I have a graphic somewhere for that.
I just
I'm at the point with Schumer and all of it, like, enough, like, stop giving them, don't give them anything. Stop it.
Nothing.
Stop it.
Nothing.
The
I'm
point-
block
over this.
traffic at this point. I need you to vote against everything you can. I need you to resist everything you can. Start from a like pretend that they're trying to overthrow our government because they are. Like act like that. Ugh.
the major
Didn't
problem.
they just confirmed another nominee yesterday of Trump?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Don't tell
God, I
Don't get
missed
me
that.
started.
God.
I missed
I
that.
missed that too.
Well, as soon as Chris brought up Schumer's name, the comments lit up. So, I mean, people are upset.
Oh, for
I
goodness sake.
know that most people feel that way, Susan. I
Yeah.
know that you're right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, look, when we were trying to basically put out the narrative that Schumer needed to step down, like the vast majority of our feedback was support. Like support even within from other politicians behind the scenes. That's what I'm saying. Like you can say all this behind the scenes, but unless someone's willing, Schumer is never going to step down willingly. Like unless he loses in 2028, he's up for re-election. So I think he will lose.
I
the way
really
he's
think
going.
they're afraid
But-
of a situation where they confront him and pressure him and he won't step down. And then it becomes this like really embarrassing moment. But I don't understand how they feel like that differs so much from what we're seeing now, because the lack of leadership right now is really embarrassing and it's allowing the Republicans continue to grabbing power. If we went through some sort of thing where Schumer didn't want to step down, that would be short-lived. It would be like a week of embarrassment, but then we'd have someone that would actually step up and start fighting. And then we could kind of reclaim some of the authority and the power and prevent them from taking any more of the state power away. I don't see how we're going to do anything if we can't unify behind that and be responsive to the voters. And even the most moderate of Democrats at this point are like, this administration's gone too far. They're taking too many of our liberties away. This is like the Greenland thing is embarrassing. Like, right? Everything is a problem. Nothing is better. Our economy is worse. Our safety and security is worse. We have less rights. We have less liberty. Like, what's going well? Nothing. Like, we needed a Democratic Party that's going to fight back. And Schumer's not the guy. He's not for the moment. He's for politics circa 100 years ago.
He's a
he says one thing.
1990s moderate Democrat in a 2026 progressive Democrat world.
You're right.
He says one thing and literally the next day votes the opposite. Like that's what he does.
The only
And it's exhausting. And his last little video that he did, like I think he's at a mindset where now if he just drops the F-bomb, that people are going to relate to what it is he's saying. I'm embarrassed by those. Okay, can we just talk about how embarrassing those are for a minute?
It's not
like
the F word. It's that he's trying to be performative and he's not going to follow
that
up
part.
with anything.
Exactly. It's
That's
like, come on,
embarrassing.
guy. Nobody believes that right now.
He has a consultant that has lied to him and told him this plays well.
Drop the F-bomb.
No, it doesn't.
It'll
It
go.
doesn't.
It'll
doesn't play
fly.
well.
It'll be great.
Stop paying for those people. They're awful. Call
Oh,
me.
for God's
Call
sake.
me. For Schumer, I will consult with you for free. Call me and I will give you my service free of charge. Free of charge.
He's free.
I'm going to charge you up the wazoo, but I'll tell you the same thing
Well,
Casey
no,
will.
I'm going to tell him for free that he needs to get the fuck out of that office and let somebody else get in. Like that's really as far as my analysis goes. So
We have the power.
Get paid, Casey. Get paid.
it's true. Teacher mindset. Teacher mindset. Sorry.
The only power we have is in our vote.
We also have our voice. We are on, every one of us
Yeah,
on this,
like it.
this live, and then our viewers are on social media. And one thing you can do, everybody can do. I know most of us do this, but a lot of people out there, you can be a fact checker. Like that is one thing you can do on your own. And all this matters because there's so much disinformation out there. Be a fact checker. You take it upon yourself to, if you see some bullshit that some Republicans putting out, Google it, go to your AI, whatever, your chat GPT, research it, and put out a post and share that. Because I don't know what the statistic is off the top of my head, but most people get their news on social media. And if you look at mainstream media, they're not giving us the full story. They are not. They're still trying to be, both sides and all that bullshit. Like we need.
And Chris, what I'm starting to see are Dems posting things that aren't necessarily true. And Dems are kind of now, I'm seeing a lot of folks fighting on social media, and it's wild.
Yes.
It's I mean, I feel
someone
like
put "do not trust AI," so I want to talk about that.
Do not.
I think in general that is true, but if you do it right, you can fact check on more than one AI. It saves you time. We have time, right? Like we're busy people, and then make sure you get the source. You're not just like, oh, AI, I'm going to go with it. Get the source from AI. Get the link. Go to that link and verify it. It's not that hard, and they are wrong. AI can be wrong. It can especially if you're on like using Grok and it's twisted form of information.
The problem.
I'm sorry, using what now? Using
Grok.
You didn't just suggest that, did you? I heard
no,
what
I
he
said,
said.
especially if you are, that's problematic.
No, if you are, yeah.
What I'm saying. Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay.
I just want to caution people because I know we've seen it where not so much like the AI photos and information, because you can check that, but we have folks even on our side who are posting AI videos that are not real. Like we saw it with Alex being murdered. Some stuff was coming out that wasn't true.
The picture of Renee Good, the photo of Renee Good, like in the car, that a lot of that was AI, a lot of those.
But people don't, folks are just like, oh, I'm emotionally attached to the story. So they share something that's not true. So I just want to, definitely caution people, like, if it's an AI video, one of the telltale signs, you guys, when you're listening to a video, AI videos have sort of like a tinny sound to them. The voices sound like a little bit tinny. So if you hear a video and it's got that kind of tinny, almost like somebody's talking a little bit through like an aluminum can, check that video. Check it, please.
I think we should have a separate live where we don't even have to do it on a regular night. We could just do a little like 30-minute live where we come on and we give you all like a quick overview of how to spot AI, like some of the biggest offenders, because I think it's something that needs to exist on the internet anyway, right? Like, and that would probably be something that would be a really useful tool to share in future. So I don't know if anybody's interested in doing that, but I think Michelle's like, right, there are some telltale signs that we could help you with as people who are chronically online.
That's very helpful because
I totally understand the comment that just came up. I did have a fight with a relative about the politics, and
I think that's very common.
It's very common. Thank you. And I had been quiet for a long time, and I'm not quiet anymore.
No, trust Susan.
I mean, and not that we are living under fascism now, right now.
Yep. Yeah. It's here.
Like, we're done. We're not being quiet. Mm-mm.
And you guys, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but when Chris Q was talking about like TSA, I don't think people realize like people are going to be upset, right? Because they don't want to shut down. Why are we doing this again? TSA being shut down, affecting flights, etc. But I need folks to go a little bit deeper and realize that if we don't do something right now, the folks who are standing up, who are getting their photos taken at protests, which is our legal right to do, and they want to do what they say they're going to do, which is put us on some kind of terrorism list, right? We lose access. In TSA, when we go to get on a flight, like it can impact our ability to get on an airplane. So I need people to realize, like, you might be upset that your flights are slow or maybe being canceled, but that's just a minor inconvenience compared to literally not being able to get onto a plane because you
And you're
don't
going to be
agree with
real
the
upset
president of the United States, right?
when they start jailing you for the things you say. You're going to be very inconvenienced. So like now is the time to suffer this inconvenience so that you don't have to suffer substantial like inconveniences and threats to your liberty.
You know, I sort of half comically before stuck my face right in front of the camera and said that they're killing people in the streets. But the reality is they're killing people in the streets. And these are not close calls. These are people that are not doing anything violent, that are not attacking the government, that are simply using their voice, which they are entitled to do under the First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and our own government is killing them. And on
They
top
are willing
of that,
to kill people that don't agree with them.
And you know what?
top of that, they're
it's not
taking.
even
Let me just finish one other point.
Yeah, sorry.
They're taking children, and removing them from their families, shipping them thousands of miles away, and detaining them. Roughly about 4,000 kids are in detention right now. Some of them have been there for 6 months. This is our United States government. People are very hesitant to compare this to the Gestapo and Nazi Germany, and I understand that, especially being Jewish. But this is and they're not sending people to death camps, although certainly there have been people that have died in these camps. But this is a modernized version of what Nazi Germany did. They're just not using gas chambers. They're rounding people up. They're putting them in camps. And it's the American government doing it in our name, using our money.
Our money. That's a good point.
Also, go ahead, Susan. Sorry.
No, I said that was well said.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those things are huge and really important. I want to share. I don't know if you guys saw the testimony in Congress of Aaliyah Rahman. She was the woman that was pulled from her car. That was the most powerful testimony I think I've ever seen, and I think it's something that we should see. So I'm going to play a segment of that here.
Repeatedly had to stop and ask how to do tasks. I received no medical
Oh,
screening.
that's the wrong one. Hold on. You'll see this other one. Here we go.
Wanted to pull into a blocked, chaotic intersection, but verbally agreed to do so and rolled down my window after an agent yelled, "Move! I will break your effing window." His first instruction. Agents on all sides of my vehicle yelled conflicting threats and instructions that I could not process while watching for pedestrians. Then the glass of the passenger side window flew across my face. I yelled, "I'm disabled," at the hands grabbing at me, and an agent said, "Too late." I felt immersed in a pattern, and I thought of Genoa Donald, an autistic black man killed by police during a traffic stop in 2021. I remembered Mr. Sliberio Gonzalez, who was killed by ICE in his vehicle last year. An agent pulled a large combat knife in front of my face, which I thought was for cutting me, and later learned was used to cut off my seatbelt. Shooting pain went through my head, neck, and wrists when I hit the ground face first and people leaned on my back. I felt the pattern, and I thought of Mr. George Floyd, who was killed 4 blocks away. I was carried face down through the street by my cuffed arms and legs while yelling that I had a brain injury and was disabled. I now cannot lift my arms normally. I was never asked for ID, never told I was under arrest, never read my rights, and never charged with a crime. Approaching the Whipple Center, I saw Black and brown bodies shackled together, chained together, being marched by yelling agents outdoors. I continue to hear the word bodies because that is how agents refer to us. We're bringing in a body. They're bringing in bodies, 7, 8 at a time. Where do I put them? We can't use that room. There's already a body in there. You have no reason to believe you will make it out alive if you are already being called a body.
So I got this still here. Hold on. This is a still, it's in the video, or maybe it's the second video I have, but the reaction from the senators made me feel a tiny bit better because also I'm going to call out Amy Klobuchar was one of the ones who early on was actually saying we can do some reforms. This is her fucking state, Minnesota. Like, we could do some reforms and maybe ICE will be better. That is white. Like, she at least gets it now fully, I believe. I don't know what she's going to do about it at the end of the day, but like they all, I think, get it now. I hope, except for Schumer.
She better figure it out if she's running for governor. And fast.
Like quick. I don't know. I wish I could have more confidence in our electeds. And I don't mean to make it sound like they're all not fighting, because there are some that are fighting for us.
It just takes one. I think it really is removing Schumer and changing that dynamic. Yeah. And I think once that's done and somebody steps in to kind of be that voice, and we've talked about this before, we know a lot of people were thinking about running to be president, so they don't want to, they don't want to try to be Senate leader. I'm going to say this again. Anybody that replaces Chuck Schumer and steps up in this moment and leads the Democratic Party to fight against the Republicans, to win at midterms, to then push back on this agenda, they can be president. Because that's what people are looking for. They don't want the person that wins. Right. The person that wins in 2028, I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of people are like, I'm not voting for anybody that's not replicating Nuremberg. I'm not voting for somebody that's not going to put these people away. Like, I'm not voting for somebody that's not going to undo what these people have done and make them pay for it. So the Democrats, the voters, the U.S. citizens want to make sure this never happens again, right? The people of this country are protected. That is going to take a certain kind of leader. And I think that the beginning of that is who replaces Schumer. And that person can work with Hakeem Jeffries, and together in unison, Congress can take back some of the power that they've lost in the eyes of the people, because they keep backing down because they're following this kind of one person or a couple people right up here that have power. And if those people are displaced, I really do think they can take that momentum and do something with it. I believe it, but they need a leader.
I want to mention also, this hearing was not like, we don't need bipartisan with this shit, because this hearing, Republicans weren't there. They did not show up. And they should have been there for this. So, when Democrats are like, oh, we need Republicans to be, no, do not help Republicans with any of this shit. None. No bipartisan. I don't want to hear that. And like, to Casey, to your point, you
can't be bipartisan with people that would wear KKK robes. You can't be bipartisan with Nazis. Like, you can't be bipartisan with those people. Would you be a bipartisan with like, who's the most famous serial killer? Somebody.
Dahmer.
Anybody?
John Wayne Gacy.
Thank you. Are you going to be bipartisan with John Wayne Gacy? No, you're not. So stop it. Like, why are you being bipartisan with people who want to take power away from the people and use it to give to people who are in human trafficking network taking advantage of children. Why? Stop.
As we look to potential candidates for 2028, I would like to point out my governor, Josh Shapiro. We in Philadelphia, we have a very liberal district attorney, Larry Krasner, who was a defense attorney, and he was very forceful in saying that ICE agents that break the law will be prosecuted by his office, and referred to the ICE agents' tactics as those of Nazis. And Josh Shapiro then chastised Larry Krasner for his harsh language. And I would like to point out that there are just a myriad of reasons why this is the case. But as we go into 2028, Josh Shapiro is not the guy. And just keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah. Well, Casey, did you want to talk about any more call to action, or what are your thoughts here as we wrap? This is sorry to be on a downer here.
Yeah, no. It's on an upper. Let me give you an upper. The upper is
Please.
that people have power in their networks, and part of that is you building a network. So tonight I met someone. I took my daughter to her therapy, and I ran into a parent that I hadn't met before and hadn't talked to before, and they asked what I did, and I said political education, and then they kind of sort of tested the water to find out, was I a Trump supporter? And I said no. And then they said, oh my gosh, amazing. We are raging liberals. We are trying to become more political. Is there any way I could message you and try to get some resources? And I was like, amazing, let's do that. And also, can I message you? Because you live in a different part of the state than I do. And I would love to connect and find out what's going on in your neighborhood. And we talked a little bit more, and we talked about how a lot of this revolution is going to be won in text messages and direct messages with people in your family and sharing what's going on and how you're getting involved. And so we talked about volunteering to be poll workers and doing all the things that we could do to help our communities. And this person was like, listen, my wife's not normally politically active, but we're called to action now. So people are prepared to be political at this point. They just need to know they have a network. And so that's you. That's everybody at home connecting with people and creating those networks. And we're going to try to help facilitate that. But I just want to end on that note to tell you, you have to start sharing this information you're seeing online with your friends and family. Don't assume that they know. Send one headline from the day, right? Something that bothers you personally so that they're staying plugged in. And then when you volunteer to do something or you call your representatives, encourage them to do the same. And by the way, keep calling your representatives, because the more they hear from us, the more they can tell Republicans, sorry, but our voters said we have to do this, right? Hold them accountable too.
And the good thing is that we've seen the roadmap, right? In, I think, every single election since Trump got elected in 2024, Democrats have either won or significantly overperformed, probably the most in that recent Texas election where Remit, I think his name was, flipped that state Senate seat by a 30-point swing. I mean, it's actually growing and getting stronger. But, big but, it isn't just going to happen. We have to make it happen. We've got to go out every day and do this stuff. We got to work at this every day because it's that important. It literally is going to save our democracy if we put in the work.
I'm in.
Well, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Another great live. We will see everyone again next Thursday. And I hope you got a lot out of this. I sure did. At least we got to vent. And thanks to all the viewers for your comments.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Yes. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.